everyone, it's your girl Nina Soul. Thank you for being here. And I am continuing my talks on during the month of Black History Month. And today we're talking about Marcus Messiah Garvey. So don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and make your comments. Thank you again for being here. It's your girl Nina Soul, and we're talking about Marcus Garvey today. Marcus Garvey, as we know, was a prominent speaker, an orator, a disciplined man who was so focused on bringing unity for the African diaspora. So where did it all start? It started in Jamaica, where he was born to parents Marcus Garvey and Sarah Ann Richards. August 17th, 1887, on Market Street, St. Anns Bay. He was exposed to literature at a young age because his father used to indulge in reading, and as a result, he caught on quickly. Started to read whatever it was that he could get his hands on, and began writing as well. As a result, he ended up becoming a printer at a young age at 19. It gave him the opportunity to move to Kingston, which he took on a job at a printing company for a local newspaper. And from there, he decided to travel. So he left, went to Costa Rica and Panama. But upon being in those countries, he realized that the way that blacks were living was unsettling. So he wanted to do something about it. Returning back to Jamaica, he decided he was going to formulate a company called the United Negro Improvement Association, acronyms UNIA. Doing this, he didn't have enough funding to further the progression of the company. So he still kept it on back burner, but he decided to travel to England, where he decided to go to Birkbeck University and enhanced his education. From there, he returned back to Jamaica, pursuing the efforts of, making the UNI a more of a collaborative party or association to get more people involved. But again, lacking funding. So he decided to travel to the USA. He knew if he could align himself with his mentor at the time and go to see him, he would probably help him in his efforts. Unfortunately, when he arrived to the US in 1915, his mentor had passed away. But he was able to see where his efforts were more needed in the US than in the West Indies. So, being on the streets of Harlem and traveling throughout the US, he noticed the lives of the Black Americans were really degrading, that they lacked that sense of self and that strength to pursue more than what they were given. So the UNIA was reformed in Harlem. Within 3 short years, from 1916 to 1919, Marcus Garvey, without social media as we have here, gained a following of over 1 million people who were pursuing freedom from the European colonialism. His goal was to create a new form of living for the Black diaspora, the African diaspora. He wanted for blacks to relocate from the US, from the West Indies, North America to Africa, and to be liberated, to have their own banks, their own community, to be able to fund their own education. As time progressed, he gained more popularity, and as he gained more popularity, he also gained people who did not like his methods and his philosophies and theories. he went on progressively to purchase a ship, and that ship was called the Black Line Star. This ship was uh, supposed to be like a shipping ship that shipped products to and from, but it was also a means of a mode of transportation for Americans to get to Africa. At the time when segregation was at all time high, people used to travel where they, especially blacks, below the ship. You weren't allowed to be on upper levels. You couldn't indulge in the basic things that everybody else used to take part in. So he felt it was important that we had our own, that we could travel in luxury, we could do what normal people do because we are normal as well. Marcus Garvey's vision was beyond, but as a result of people not liking his theories, as I've mentioned before, and his thought processes, he gained people who mistrusted him, and further investigations tried to find whatever they could to defame his character. He was eventually convicted of mail fraud for selling stocks for the Black Star Line, but and ended up doing 2 years in prison in Atlanta. From there, he was deported back to Jamaica, of which he tried to restart the UNIA from there, but was unsuccessful. At that point, his wife, Amy Jacks, who had relocated with him to Jamaica, ended up having 2 boys for him. And they lived in Kingston for a bit, where things did not plateau the way it did in the US. So he left to go to England. And that's where he stayed for the time being. Amy and her 2 boys did go back to England with him to try to, get things going, but they decided to relocate back to Jamaica. He ended up succumbing to an aneurysm, which took his life on June 10th, 1940. The important lesson here from Marcus Garvey's life that he taught us, and I felt that he taught us, was to never give up. He had a dream. At the age of 14, he used to envision himself on a podium speaking to people. And even though when he went to the United States and had his first speaking engagement, he flawed. He had a shrill in his voice. He fell apart. But he didn't give up. And he pursued until he became a national figure, where people across the world knew of Garvey and still practice Garveyism to this day. Never give up on your dreams. Never stop believing in what you feel is right. Garvey's practices is now followed by the Nation of Islam, the Rastafarian movement. Malcolm X's parents were actually part of Marcus Garvey's movement and was attending meetings and so forth. So Malcolm X was a contributing factor from Garvey's teachings. We know Martin Luther King spoke of him and his efforts and what he's done, and put certain things that he had into practice as well. Bob Marley, Redemption Songs. Parts of that song was taken from Marcus Garvey's speeches as well. So to this day, we are still practicing some of the Garveyism practices that he had implemented back in the early 1914s, 1920s. But never give up on what it is that you believe in. And united is what we need to be as a community, as just as people. So that's my moment for you. Marcus Garvey, a national hero, a wonderful orator, a man who stood for his people and believed in unification. Nina Soul giving you love, peace, blessing, and a little bit of information about people you probably heard about but didn't know about. So take care. Lots of love. Peace.